Good morning. Thank you all for coming today as we provide updates on several incidents that have occurred within York Region. Speaking today will be Chief of Police Jim MacSween, Inspector Paulo Fiore of the Homicide and Major Case Management Unit, and Detective Sergeant Ryan Boulay of the Hold-Up Unit. I ask that you keep your questions until the end, where I will provide further direction at the conclusion of the updates. I'd now like to call to the podium, Police Chief Jim MacSween.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for being here today. As you all know, we have experienced a particularly violent few weeks here in York Region, which is both concerning and, of course, disappointing to all of us. As you're going to hear from Inspector Fiore and Detective Sergeant Ryan Boulay, in the last 2 weeks, there have been 2 fatal shootings, an arson that has claimed the life of an 11-year-old girl, and left 4 others in critical condition, and an additional shooting and home invasion which left 1 person injured. First, I'd like to express my sincere condolences to the family and friends of those who have been killed in these incidents. That includes a devout Muslim Canadian, Mr. Abdul Aleem Faruqi, who was loved by his family and a respected leader in his community. Our thoughts are with his family and the entire community as they mourn the loss of their friend and leader. I also wish a fast recovery to the other victims and everyone affected by each of these heinous crimes. To the community at large, we understand the concern and attention these incidents have garnered. But let me say this: York Regional Police and I personally am committed to keeping our community safe and providing support for these victims and their families. The gravity of these incidents will not be overlooked, and each case will be investigated and prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. And those responsible will be held accountable. For those who are concerned about the spike in violent crime we saw in the last 2 weeks, we hear you and we are definitely listening. That's why York Regional Police is taking proactive measures to prevent violent crime wherever possible. We are increasing patrols in hotspot areas across our region. We're working with our team of crime analysts and our partner agencies across the Greater Toronto Area, and our investigators are working diligently to arrest those responsible and ensure they are prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. Ensuring public safety, as I've mentioned before, is a shared responsibility, and you've heard me say this many, many times. It takes the dedication and diligence of everyone in the community. That means if you see something, say something, call us. It also means we need the help of all actors in the criminal justice system to do their part in keeping violent offenders where they belong, off the streets. This is about risk management. Hard stop. Each and every day, our officers risk their own personal safety to remove these criminals from the streets. And yet, I'm disappointed to report that many of the violent incidents in our region, we are arresting repeat offenders over and over again. Along with my fellow police leaders, I know I sound like a broken record most times. But just a few weeks ago, our officers were thrust into a dangerous encounter, which turned into a shootout in Toronto. In that case, the suspect had destroyed his electronic ankle monitor and was on the run. This suspect was already on bail, and while on bail, failed to appear at his sentencing hearing, where a judge handed down an 8-year sentence for an armed robbery in which the accused shot at his victim yet again. Our officers never should have had to put their lives at risk dealing with someone who never should have been on the streets in the first place. And yet here we are, in broad daylight, as I mentioned, in a shootout in the middle of the street with everyone's lives on the line. This is completely unacceptable. Something has to change. That's why we are, once again, appealing for reform to the bail system. This is not about politics. It's about safety. The system's broken, and we need to ensure justice is served and violent criminals are not on our streets when they pose a significant risk to all of our communities. And as you'll hear from our team in a few minutes, we're also seeing another disturbing trend, a spike in violent crime committed by youths. As young people continue to be recruited and exploited by criminal networks, York Regional Police is working hard to disrupt and dismantle these criminal organizations. But as I say, it takes a village, and it's up to the entire community, including institutions and families, to ensure our kids have positive influences and opportunities, to keep them away from crime and on a path to success. And if they do get into trouble, we need to ensure they're being rehabilitated effectively so they don't reoffend. Now, before I pass it over to Inspector Fiore and Detective Sergeant Boulay to provide updates on outstanding investigations, let me add this. In the unlikely event that you find yourself the victim of a home invasion, we are urging citizens not to take matters into their own hands. While we don't want homeowners to feel powerless, we urge you to call 911 and do everything you can to keep yourself and loved ones safe until police arrive and be the best witness possible. This could mean locking yourself in a room away from the perpetrators, hiding, fleeing the home, but don't engage unless absolutely necessary. When we have a weekend like we just had, it's easy to understand our community is feeling unsafe. But let me say this once again, this does remain a safe place to live. And our service is doing everything possible to investigate these crimes and to maintain public safety. But as I mentioned, it is a shared responsibility, and we need the commitment of everyone in our community, including the criminal justice system, to ensure our region remains safe and secure. In closing, I'd just like to remind the public that as a police service, our top priority is the safety of all of our communities. And I know that these incidents have had a devastating impact on the families involved and the broader community, but I want to be clear, we are laser focused on solving these crimes and bringing those responsible to justice while keeping everyone safe. Thank you, and I'll now turn it over to Inspector Fiore.
Thank you, Chief. Good morning. I will be providing an investigative update on 3 recent homicides which have occurred in the past 8 days in York Region. The first incident I will be updating you on is the homicide of Abdul Alim Farouki. On Sunday, August 31st at 12:53 a.m., York Regional Police officers responded to a reported home invasion at a residence near Andretta Drive in Barron Street in the city of Vaughan. Officers arrived and located a male victim inside the home suffering from trauma. Despite life-saving efforts, he was pronounced deceased at the scene. The victim was identified as Abdul Alim Farouki, 46 years of age, of the city of Vaughan. Investigators confirmed that at least 3 male suspects were involved. The suspects forced entry through a rear door of the residence, with one suspect carrying a firearm. When Mr. Farouki confronted them, he was fatally shot. The suspects fled through the rear of the home, taking 3 family members' phones, two of which were later found discarded nearby and seized by police. The suspects fled the area in a dark-colored SUV. The suspect descriptions are the following. The first male, approximately 6 feet tall, with broad shoulders, wearing a mask and dark clothing. Suspect number 2, male, approximately 5'9", wearing a mask and dark clothing. And the third male suspect, a black male, thin build, wearing a mask and dark clothing. At this time, it is believed the house was specifically targeted for a robbery. We are still looking into any and all motives behind the robbery, but currently we believe this to be based on a monetary gain only. Mr. Farouki was not in any way involved in criminal activities. By all accounts, and from speaking with members of the community, Mr. Farouki was well respected, a great family man, and loved by his community. He was a local business owner who operated Unique Furnace and Duct Cleaning in the city of Mississauga and was a devout Muslim Canadian. He lived at the residence with his wife and their 4 children, who range in the age of 4 to 17 years old. Witness statements from family members corroborated the sequence of events and confirmed the suspect's actions inside the home. The post-mortem examination determined the cause of death was gunshot wounds. A second home invasion took place that morning at 2:20 a.m., less than 1 kilometer away, involving 3 armed suspects. While the 2 incidents have not been formally linked, investigators are reviewing the evidence for possible connections. Detective Sergeant Boulay will provide further details on this incident. The second incident I will be updating you on is an arson at 10 Skywood Drive, Richmond Hill. On Monday, September 1st at 2:57 a.m., York Regional Police received a report of a house fire at 10 Skywood Drive in the town of Richmond Hill. Officers, along with Richmond Hill Fire and Emergency Services and York Region Paramedic Services, attended the residence. 4 unconscious victims were found in the residence, and a 5th victim was located outside. All 5 victims were transported to hospital in critical condition. On September 2nd, one of the victims, an 11-year-old, succumbed to her injuries and was pronounced. At this time, based on the evidence collected during the course of the investigation, the fire is believed to be an arson. The incident is now being investigated as a homicide, and 4 other victims remain in critical condition. Investigators from the Office of the Fire Marshal are still processing the scene and conducting a parallel investigation, which is ongoing. The third and final incident I will be updating you on is the homicide of Devane Donald Francis. On Wednesday, August the 27th at 2:36 p.m., York Regional Police officers attended a commercial premise in the area of Langstaff Road in James Street in the city of Vaughan for a report of an injured person. Upon arrival, a male was located in one of the units with obvious signs of trauma, and he was pronounced deceased at the scene. The following day, the Office of the Chief Coroner identified the victim as Devane Donald Francis, 41, of the city of Toronto. The cause of death was determined to be the result of gunshot wounds. The investigation has revealed that the homicide took place on Tuesday, August the 26th, and at least 2 suspects were involved. Immediately following the murder on Tuesday, at approximately 12:22 p.m., the suspect vehicle, a white 4-door 2016 Honda Civic, was observed fleeing the scene. The vehicle was recovered on the same day as the homicide by officers in the James Street and King Side Road area in the township of King. This is being treated as a targeted incident. All 3 of these investigations are at the early stages, and we are still conducting extensive canvasses for witnesses and CCTV footage. Investigators are appealing to any witnesses who have not yet spoken to please contact us at the Homicide Office or through Crime Stoppers. We are seeking any information from the public that will assist us in identifying those responsible. Pass it over to Detective Sergeant Boulay.
Thanks, Inspector. Thank you, Chief. I'm Detective Sergeant Boulay of our hold-up unit. I'm going to provide 2 updates in relation to 2 recent home invasions that occurred in the region of York. The first one being on August 31st in the area of Major Mackenzie Drive and Highway 27. At approximately 2:20 a.m., 3 suspects forced entry into the residence by smashing the glass out of the front door. At the time of the incident, 2 adults and 2 children, aged 6 and 9, were within the residence. At least one of those suspects was armed with a firearm. Shortly after entering the residence, the suspects fled to an awaiting vehicle being operated by a 4th suspect. We believe that vehicle to be a dark-colored SUV, possibly a Ford Edge. The suspects are all described as males who are wearing masks and gloves. You're about to see a video of the incident transpiring as the suspects enter that residence. That investigation is currently still ongoing, and investigators are reviewing evidence associated to that incident. The second incident I'm going to discuss occurred on September 1st in the area of Hepburn Street and Ashgrove Road in the city of Markham. This incident involves a kidnapping that occurred on the morning of Monday, September 1st, which was then followed by an armed home invasion, which resulted in one victim being shot. The following sequence of events are believed to be what transpired leading up to the shooting. At approximately 8 a.m., a 29-year-old female victim was operating her vehicle in the city of Markham when she was intentionally struck by one of two suspect vehicles in the area of McCowan Road and 407. Not realizing this was an intentional incident, the victim stopped her vehicle, exited to inspect the damage, at which point the second suspect vehicle, believed to be an older model brown or gray van, drove up next to her and forced her into the vehicle and restrained her. Following the kidnapping, 5 suspects attended the victim's residence in Markham, where an armed home invasion occurred. During that incident, a 54-year-old male was shot. He will survive. Uniformed officers arrived at the residence while the incident was still unfolding and ultimately arrested 4 suspects. The 5th suspect managed to flee on foot away from the residence and has not been located. Shortly after the arrest, investigators were made aware that the female victim who had been kidnapped was located in the area of Tapscott Road and Melford Drive in the city of Toronto. Her vehicle was also located in this area. 2 youths, aged 16 and 17, along with 2 adults, aged 20 and 21 years old, have since been charged with multiple offenses relating to the kidnapping and shooting. The 16-year-old youth was on a previous release order for unrelated offenses at the time of this incident. At this point, all 4 accused remain in custody. At this point, it is believed that multiple suspects are outstanding, and as such, we're appealing for witnesses to contact our holdup or Crime Stoppers. Given the recent incidents that we have seen here today, York Regional Police are reminding citizens to remain vigilant of their surroundings. Ensure your home surveillance systems are functioning and recording. Ensure your home alarm systems are functioning and audible. Have a cell phone charged and available in the case of an emergency. Ensure you have sufficient lighting on the exterior of your residence and that sight lines to entrance points are clear. Ensure all of your locking mechanisms are working and in good order. Be a good neighbor. Look out for each other. Have a safety plan with your family in the case of an emergency. Do all persons in your residence have a cell phone readily accessible to them? Be less attractive to becoming a target. Don't keep excessive valuables within your residence. Most importantly, we're encouraging you not to engage with the suspects or put up resistance. Comply with demands for property that are being made to ensure additional violence is not targeted towards you or your family. Thank you.
Thank you. We're now going to open it up to questions from the media. We ask that you attend to the microphone on the side here, provide your name, the media outlet you're with, and 1 question and 1 follow-up question, and who that question is directed to.
Good morning, Momin Qureshi, 680 News Radio. Chief, I'd like to ask you a question. You just gave some strong advice to people who may be victims of home invasions to not try to, cause any problems, hide, play defense, protect yourself. But over the last couple of weeks, the Premier, has been pretty vocal about having the right to defend yourself, to take action. He even went so far as to say he'd rather be judged by a jury of his 12 peers than carried out by 6 people. I mean, this is contrary to what you're saying. Do you have any concerns about the fact that the Premier is saying you should stand up for yourself and you should defend yourself?
No, I have no concerns. The Premier can make his own statement and his own mind up about that. What I would say is, as a police service, we'll follow the laws as they're written. If the laws change, we'll change with the laws. But as it stands, we know the best defense for most people is to comply. As you've just heard, a number of safety recommendations will allow for those that are victimizing members in the community to leave and not harm anyone. It sometimes can fall on deaf ears when members feel like they have to take matters into their own hands. And the only thing I'd say is, if we are going to rely on our community members to take matters into their own hands to solve this problem, we have all failed our community. So I'll leave political comments to the politicians and let them have those conversations. But for now, the laws are written, we'll follow those laws.
But I guess you are hoping that people kind of heed your advice more than the Premier's here, that if they do find themselves in this situation, that they should do the best they can to kind of stay away from the criminals. And
my advice is to rely on our police service, call 911 immediately, and let us take it from there. We see more often than not when people comply that injuries are not happening, and people are not victimized in terms of injury, or in this case, unfortunately, we've seen the loss of life in some of these incidents.
Shanli Thong, CTV News, Toronto. My question's in regard to the home invasion and death of Mr. Faruqi. You made the distinction that he was not the intended target. He was not involved in any criminality. But it was still said that you believe the home was targeted. We spoke to the family yesterday. They took serious exception to that. We also know that there was a second invasion in the same neighborhood an hour and a half later. Can we get any detail as to how you know that this was targeted for monetary value in any way?
Yeah, I'll turn it over to Inspector Fiore on the investigation.
This investigation, it's like I stated before, it's at its early stages. The motive is still being established. We believe that from the information we've learned, that they were in the house for a home invasion and to take valuables, and we're not able to speak any further to those details at this time.
It was also said on the day after that there was no threat to public safety, but 2 home invasions in the same neighborhood within 90 minutes of each other. Is there a threat? There seems to be danger that these people are still out there, and it could happen to seemingly any home in the neighborhood. Is there a way to draw that line to say why there is no threat to public safety if it's happened twice in the same neighborhood, seemingly at random?
Well, basically, when that comes out that there's no threat to public safety, we're under the belief that through our investigations that these are targeted addresses. They're not just random home invasions. Generally, the individuals, the suspects, are going in for a purpose with some type of motive to get whatever they're looking for. So that's why I believe the issue of public safety is broadly out there, that it's not just complete random places. They're targeted addresses.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify, so these guys thought something was in there that they were looking for, not just cell phones?
Yes.
Rahim Ladani, CTV News, also for Inspector Fiore. This question's about the suspected arson. Are police looking for a suspect in this arson, and has an individual been apprehended? And if not, can you provide a description of who you're looking for?
This event happened on Monday. It is very early on. It's a very active investigation. At this point in time, we do not have a suspect description. We are working through video, a lot of video. It takes a lot of time, and we're moving through the evidence, witness canvassing, video canvassing. At this moment, we don't have a description of a suspect, and there has been no arrests made.
We've heard from a lot of people in the neighborhood that police were called to this home earlier this summer, and it involved an individual with a potential domestic dispute. Can you confirm that police were at that home earlier this year?
I'm not able to discuss that component of the investigation. It is still ongoing and at its infancy.
Good morning, Megan King, Global News. Question for the chief, please. Chief, you spoke about arresting repeat offenders over and over again. Bringing it up in today's conference, how much do you think that plays into the specific cases we're talking about? Do you think these are repeat offenders?
Well, I don't know yet. In some cases, we haven't caught anyone. So, you know, all I can say is that you've seen in many media releases that we've put out, and I've asked our comms team to make sure in every case where we have violent repeat offenders that are arrested over and over again and on bail, that we report that out. So the community and the media has a full understanding of when I stand up here time and time again and talk about bail reform or, you know, as I mentioned earlier, the over-reliance on our judiciary on electronic ankle monitors, which we know people are cutting off and absconding, right? They're fleeing. That's an issue. That's a risk management issue. And so when I call on actors in the whole system we need to collaborate and work together on this. This is not going to be solved by further funding. It's not going to be solved by a task force. It's not going to be solved by anything other than the whole system working together and focusing on public safety as a key component and making it victim-centered. So we're focusing on victims and not over-relying on talking about accused people who are actually the ones who are making the choices to victimize our community.
The other point you were making during that was about a spike in crimes committed by youths. Can you speak a little more to why that might be occurring?
Well, look, organized crime is alive and well in the Greater Toronto Area, and this is a vulnerable sector of our community, which we know is being exploited to commit crimes. And, you know, we had charged a 12-year-old just a few weeks back for shooting at someone in a driveway of their residence through a vehicle, and that 12-year-old was out on bail. What is wrong with this picture? So when I talk about youth crime, those are examples that we're referring to highlight the issue that, you know, I believe this is a whole system approach. We need to look at youth justice reform. We need to look at bail. We need to focus our attention on public safety and make that the pinnacle of how we keep communities safe. And everybody has a role to play. Everybody. Families, communities, institutions, right? Government. This can't be solved. I've been down at Queen's Park. I've provided comments on bail reform. So have many of my colleagues across the GTA. And here we are again talking about it. And it seems like in some cases, right, we have not moved the needle collectively. Because this is not just a police issue. Unfortunately, when it becomes our issue, it's too late. So we need to do something about this issue around bail and about keeping those people off the streets that shouldn't be on the streets. If that's done in its rawest form, if we were to keep those that are committing violent crimes, crimes related to firearms, off the streets when they should be, we would see reductions. We would see less victimization and less opportunity to commit crimes against people who are simply trying to live their lives and raise their families in York Region and beyond.
Good morning. Brandon Chogri, City News. Maybe this is a question for Inspector Fiore.
Okay, sure. Inspector.
In the Vaughan home invasion where Mr. Faruqi was killed, you say that you believe the house was targeted in a robbery. Do you have an idea, perhaps, of what those suspects were targeting inside the home?
I'm not able to answer that question. This investigation is ongoing, and I need to protect the integrity of it, and I'm going to stay on my earlier statement, be consistent with it, and we believe it was targeted for robbery and based on monetary gain only, and looking for valuables, and I won't go any further on that point.
Okay, and obviously you're, York Regional Police is saying that you do not believe that there's a threat to the public in this situation. Family friends of Mr. Faruqi that we spoke to who live in the area, even just a street over, they're terrified. They're feeling very afraid right now. And they tell us that, the lights were on in the house, family members were awake. This is a very brazen break-in. How can you tell them that there is no threat to public safety when they're feeling this afraid?
I understand where they're coming from. Clearly this is a very traumatic incident. This is something that has changed their lives forever, and I do understand their level of fear. But what the messaging is that these events are targeted. They're not absolutely random, and the threat to public safety is not I'm not going to say not prevalent, but at the end of the day, it's just not a random home invasion attack. It's a very difficult question to answer.
Good morning. Question for Chief Steve Ryan from CP24. Sir, it's not only York Region, but officers throughout the GTA, we report on stories where their lives, their safety is being put at risk, as are the communities, as we've heard. When we talk about the police needing assistance, it's the feds that make the laws, the federal laws, right? See signing she, coast to coast. If the federal government doesn't strengthen the laws when it comes to serious crimes for deterrence, on the flip side, if the province doesn't clear up the problem in provincial detention centers where they're over capacity, if both sides don't get together and straighten out both of these problems, is this not going to continue? Like, you need help, right? You need help from not just the feds, but also from the province as well to straighten out this jail situation, and so JPs can lock or detain those facing violent crime charges. But they're not doing that now because the jails are over capacity. And those that are committing those crimes aren't deterred because the laws aren't tough enough. So the police need help. Would you agree with that?
Well, short answer is police need help, yes. And I do agree, collaboration between both levels of government, including municipal governments as well, but in particular, provincially and federally, a collaborative effort to solve the problem is required. And it's not going to be solved by one entity alone. What I get frustrated at, though, Ryan, on many, many occasions, it's the police that are left holding the bag, having to answer questions as to public safety, right? And we hear in the past comments about trust and confidence in policing, right? Where's the conversation about trust and confidence in other actors in this space and allowing them to answer the questions on behalf of their own institutions that, in my view, right, collectively are failing? So at the end of the day, something needs to be done. I'm not going to point out one entity or another or one group of people or another. That's not my role here. My role here is to protect the community and make sure we put every bit of resources we have to make sure these don't happen again and that we are where we need to be in as timely a manner as possible. And we'll do that. We'll do our part. And I'll stand here every time you ask a question and every time a community is victimized and traumatized to express my condolences. But I got to tell you, it gets frustrating when I don't hear others standing up that I know play a role in public safety, and yet, you know, judicial independence becomes the focal point, and then who's left answering to victims? Our investigators, right? Victim services. So change is required. We need help, yes. Short answer.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hi there, Megan Fitzpatrick from CBC News. Just again, a question about Mr. Faruqi and the circumstances of the shooting. Can you just confirm where in the house the shooting took place, and was he shot in front of his children and wife?
The family was in the house at the time of the home invasion and shooting. The family was present. and I'm not going to be able to get into any further details on where they were located in the house or who was where, but the incident happened in front of the family, in front of the family members.
Okay, like now I'm a bit confused. They did witness the shooting, or they were in the home when the shooting took place?
They were in the home at the time of the incident.
Okay, but you're not confirming that they witnessed him being shot in front of them?
There were family members present at the time of the shooting.
Okay, my actual follow-up question is just a few more details on actually two of the other cases. The 11-year-old girl that has died of her injuries as a result of what you say is an arson and now being investigated as a homicide. I understand you're not going to reveal her identity, but is there anything you can tell us about her? And the other victims, if there's anything you can say about their ages, or some of the other victims who are still in hospital, also children?
The other victims are still in the hospital and in critical condition. There's no further information I can provide on the victims as far as age or gender. I'm going to leave it as I initially reported.
Anything about the little girl you can tell us?
I can't say anything further that what has already been discussed here.
Dale Manukduk, CBC News Toronto. This is about the Abdul Aleem Faruqi case. Can you tell us about the 911 call? Where did it come from? And how long did it take for police to arrive on scene?
I'm not actually aware of the actual response time. I know that when we do receive 911 calls, our response times are based on the geography of where vehicles are, uniform officers are, in comparison to where the call's coming from, and it's also based on availability of resources. I don't have the actual time of the response. I'm not prepared to discuss that, but that's something that I could speak to you later on and follow up with that.
About the 911 call, did the initial call come from inside the residence?
The 911 call, I believe it does, yes. Yes.
Perfect. And just a question for Chief MacSween. You spoke about how there's been this recent spike in crime over the last week or so, but can you paint a picture for us over the last few years? Are major crimes, violent crimes in your region stable, up, down?
General comment, I don't have the numbers here, but overall crime is down, generally. Some of our other types of crimes, crime types of a violent nature, are down. But I'm not going to stand here and tell the community feel safe because crime is down when we're talking about the loss of life here. What I will say is, there's some disturbing trends that are still up. Shootings, the number of guns we're seizing, where those guns are coming from. You've heard me talk about this before. We have issues there as well to deal with. Some categories of violent crime, but very few are up. I know home invasions are up. Carjackings are down, for example, and we've been talking about that over the last couple of years as well when we've been dealing with the issues of auto theft and robberies for vehicles. So, yeah. Anything else?
Hi, Lisa Queen from YorkRegion.com.
Hi.
The Premier referred to the suspects in the shooting of Mr. Faruqi as scumbags. I'm just wondering how you would classify them and maybe suspects in some of these other violent crimes.
They're suspects. They're people, we don't know who they are yet, but at the end of the day, I am not going to speak for or comment on what the Premier might say or what any other government official may say. That's their language, their words, and from my perspective, right, cowards comes to mind, and people that don't care, have no compassion for others. That's how I characterize people like this. And they're not contributing to safe communities. So I would leave it at that and let others speak for themselves.
Okay. He also said that he was shot in front of his kids. Is that right or wrong?
Well, I think the inspector just mentioned that I don't know specifically if the kids were right there when they were in the home. That's close enough for me.
Thanks.
Okay? Anything else? Okay.
That's going to conclude the press conference this morning. There will be one-on-one interviews available after. Please seek myself, Constable Musklock, or Constable Dixon to help arrange that. Thank you.